Okay, I guess we just plop on. Oh wait, let me bring up my notey thing. Why'd I get rid of it? Anyway, yeah, you can go ahead start.
In the year 1998, Godzilla was back.
Are we?
Kinda, but not
Yeah,
really.
I was about to say, are we sure? Godzilla's Godzilla's been rebranded, right? This is
This is Zilla.
yeah, 1998. It's near. It's I think it's number 18 on the. Hold on, let me make sure I get the name of this right. Uh, number 18 on the. I should have had it right on cap. Anyway, it's a 100. There we go. 100 years, 100 stinkers list. It's in the bottom 20.
Wow. I don't
Yeah.
think it quite deserves that.
No, I mean, well, it's what we like to call a romp. That's for sure.
Hmm. Well,
But
so this is a film. We basically have two films to talk about today because we have the 1998 motion picture about Big Lizard smashing New York, which is great, which is fine. It's a fun movie. And then we have the first attempt at an American remake of Godzilla, which is shambolic and offensive. But
yeah,
like both of those things are true.
yeah. Well, this watching it last night or whatever, I was kind of like, oh, this is like late '90s, the movie, like more than
Hmm.
most things. I mean, like Independence Day, we said had a little bit of a timeless feel, same director and producer, of course. I guess Small Soldiers had a pretty well. That was more of a kiddie late '90s thing, right? This is kind of the,
Yeah.
I guess,
Late
pop
90s
culture.
blockbuster.
Yeah, it's got well, it's literally got blockbuster ads in it, if in the in Madison Square Garden. So
Hmm.
now we're putting that stuff into Captain Marvel and having like recreated and stuff for nostalgia, right? But uh, the music in this is about as late '90s blockbuster as possible, and so on. Yeah,
The cast.
yes, the cast. We have what half of the Simpsons here.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun though. I like that. I think yeah, I was one of the people that would have seen this like opening weekend at least, if not opening night, and I think I just came out with a meh myself because we were used to watching completely insane, impossible action by 1998 anyway. So,
Hmm.
although
So I was like 7 years old and already like I was a Jurassic Park generation kid and obsessed with Godzilla. So this was huge for me. And this is one of the earlier like blockbuster releases I remember in terms of like it was the advert on the bus, it was the advert on TV, it was the Happy Meal at McDonald's, it was everywhere. Like I remember the bus advert was just a big picture of Godzilla's foot and it says his foot is bigger than this bus.
see, being older, I was in university, so I was getting hit by the videos
Mm,
because we got it's a Puff Daddy doing the Led Zeppelin thing that's in the end credits.
yeah.
I think the Wallflowers did a version of Heroes that sounded exactly like Bowie's, except it wasn't good.
Mm.
Maybe that's later in the credits. I'm not quite sure, but those videos we were getting pummeled with those videos.
Okay.
As someone that didn't take the bus, but well, the university buses wouldn't have Godzilla
Did you
ads
drive
anyway.
the bus? Yeah, at this point.
Nah, that was a few years later. But we didn't have ads
I
on our
wish I could
buses.
say you drove the Godzilla bus.
Oh yeah, that would have been awesome. But no ads on the bus. Just they did come from Disney World though. My university got their buses from Disney World, so they were the Disney World buses, but rebranded for my university.
Mm. But they still played It's a Small World constantly.
Yeah, that's right. And
But that was
I
just
keep on
Matt's
saying,
choice. That wasn't the bus.
no, that would not be my choice. Although when I took my daughter there to Disneyland when she was 3.5, we had to ride that like 5 times. It's also really busy and there's never a line for It's a Small World, so that was the other reason.
Mm. I'm not saying you would personally enjoy it. I'm saying you would do it to irritate other people.
Oh no, I do the party bus. I have a bunch of drunk people on the bus, and I go to the electronic radio station, and then start flashing the lights and hitting the hills really fast.
Nice.
Yeah, I loved it as a party
Clean up a
bus,
lot of
man.
vomit.
No, but we did one night. We were all there was about 5 buses around, and there was a couple like going on different people's buses, going in the back and doing increasingly like sexual stuff.
Awesome.
So and they got on mine. I think they were just necking a little bit, but later we get the oh my god, these people are doing this on my bus. Anyway, keeping it more wholesome, what was a 7-year-old Luke's response to this movie?
I don't really remember my response to the movie because I was too young. I remember being very excited about the toys, and I remember watching the Saturday morning cartoon in the preceding years, and I remember, I guess, enjoying the movie.
But it
But like my actual memories of this film get all mixed up with this, The Lost World, which came out the year before, the original Jurassic Park. And then it's not until later on in my teens I go back to watching it as a big Godzilla fan who's seen a lot of the Japanese ones. Like, I guess I was planning to watch it expecting to hate it. I'm just being like, no, but it's fine though. Like, yeah,
yeah,
obviously it's not as good as the real ones, but like it's
yeah.
not a terrible film, and like it doesn't invalidate all the other Godzillas that we still have before and since.
I think I like. I'm thinking of it in terms of kind of Emmerich's filmography, and I do feel like maybe it's. I mean, let's none of his movies are like legit like quote unquote good, right? But I do
I
feel
mean,
like
hard disagree, but
I was about to say some are more resonant, right?
yeah,
Like
I
as
just
in I
being a
like
dick.
them. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I like this better in Stargate. Universal Soldier I haven't seen since 1992. Independence Day blows this out of the water for
Oh
sure,
god, yeah,
but not at sequel resurgence.
which I
I
still
think
haven't seen.
I think if I watched it now, I would there it'd be problematic. But I remember liking The Patriot when it came out.
Ah,
Um, I like The Day After Tomorrow more than I should, and I like 2012 more than I should. So
hmm.
I haven't
We
seen.
are. It's not going to take us long until we have actually covered the entire Emmerich catalog on this podcast.
Oh yeah, it's certainly fodder for a sci-fi podcast. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying I don't like his movies. I'm just not willing to call them, good movies. um, to catch people up on this one, I don't know. Is this one you can do off your dome? It seems like you might.
Oh, yeah, yeah, easily.
Okay, run it.
Nick Totopoulos is the worm guy, a scientist who deals with animals that have grown exponentially large due to radiation, and he's brought in by the military to investigate a mysterious creature that's eating fishing vessels. The creature turns up in New York, and it's a big ass iguana, and it wants to lay eggs. Nick rekindles a romance with an old flame who's now a journalist, but she leaks some military documents, and Nick gets kicked off the team just as he discovers that the creature has laid eggs. He teams up with the French Secret Service to find the nest. They report it to the military. The nest gets blown up, and then this not quite Godzilla gets tangled up in the Brooklyn Bridge and killed with standard explosives.
That's American military for you.
Well, we're going to have to talk a lot about the American military in this film,
Yes, we are.
because this is. I mean, let's get into it. No one cares about the actors on this one.
I care about Matthew Broderick. I like
Yeah,
Ferris
he's like a
Bueller.
mega piece of shit.
Oh, what, like in what, modern years or something? Oh, did he
Oh,
hit
like
somebody
he
with a car
killed
or
people
something?
in a drink driving accident and got away with it because he's famous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When was that?
That
I
was
do
like
remember.
not recent. That was like maybe early 2000s or something.
Okay.
Because yeah, that's why he stopped being in films real suddenly.
Oh, that's because I was thinking about that when watching this. So I was like, I remember seeing him in films. What happened? Because I was like, oh, he'd only be in his 50s now. So
Yeah,
I
because
guess he.
it was in the UK. He yeah, he drunk drive, I think, killed two people, and then just paid like £175 fine or something, and that was it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe, I guess it made bigger news in the UK.
Oh
I'm gonna.
wait, no, that's oh oh no, because it was 1987. It was before he was famous.
Oh, crazy. So the
Yeah,
whole
very
time,
weird.
yeah. So the whole time we were being, yeah, it definitely didn't make the. That wasn't common knowledge, say when Godzilla came out. I think, at least not in
Hmm.
the states. Anyway, it's someone who watched Ferris Bueller too many times. Obviously that was a.
Also, I don't. I might have made up the fact that it was involved alcohol.
Oh, okay. So
Broderick
he
told the police he had no recollection of the clash and did not know why he had been in the wrong lane.
okay. Maybe he's just a shitty driver. I don't know.
Hmm. The family called it a travesty of justice
Hmm.
because he faced up to 5 years in prison, but was convicted of the much lesser charge and of careless driving and fined £100.
Okay. Well, yeah. I guess people make mistakes, but
But then in 2012, he was in a multi-million-dollar Honda ad that aired during the Super Bowl,
a what
and the
ad?
family said Honda ad.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but yeah,
So the
86. Had he even done films yet?
I think that's
Apparently, he is active from 81. So,
because there's War Games. Oh yeah, War Games is another one I watched an awful lot when I was a kid. So
which also we probably should do on here eventually.
oh yeah, yeah, that's it's I've almost mentioned it on several occasions.
Anyway, yeah, I guess it's not a case of necessarily Matthew Broderick being an awful person, just that the justice system being awful for dealing with rich people.
Okay, there we go. So because yeah, yeah, after this he still had the producers coming, but he has kind of like tapered off in recent years. I don't remember seeing him in anything recently. So
I guess he's not like a super great actor, and boyish charm stops working when you hit a certain age.
oh, I know the one that also about this time, and probably why I was a little more primed to see Godzilla. I think he had just done the movie Dick, which
Okay,
that's no, no,
that's
no,
a
no,
Nixon.
no, 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 no. Election.
Okay,
They came out like about the same time. That's why I'm crossing the wires. I just wanted to say
I
Dick.
see.
That's all. But no, he was in Election, which I that's another one where watching it now it would probably seem more problematic. Sort of like how like on so many levels you can't watch American Beauty anymore.
Mm.
There's like 5 levels you don't want to watch American Beauty anymore. Who else is here? We got our couple of Simpsons. Hank Azaria is keeping it pretty low key. It's just that one time
Yeah,
when
for
he
the most
first
part, he's
runs
not
after
doing his big
Godzilla.
voices.
Yeah, there was one time when he first runs after Zilla with his camera. It was definitely like Moe screaming. That was kind of fun, but
Yeah.
but the rest of the time, surprisingly subdued. Harry Shearer being not subdued at all, but that's what you want from him, I think.
Yep. You've got Jean Reno in here.
Well, he was in
Just
every movie from 1996 to 1999.
yep. You know, I mean, he's great. He does what he does. He just turns up and does Jean Reno stuff.
I mean, yeah, if this movie well when this movie was made 15 years later, that's when it's like, man, we should really put Ken Watanabe in here because that fishing trout at the beginning of the movie is not really enough. And that
Yeah.
that's I guess Last Samurai hadn't come out yet, so he hadn't got his like Japanese man you put in Hollywood movies thing
Oh
yet.
god, yeah. If they tried to do that now, we'd have gotten like Mr. Miyagi. So I'm glad they didn't try to do that in 1998.
Okay, maybe it's for the best then.
You have Michael Lerner as Mayor Ebert, a deliberate like
well,
homage to Ebert.
and his assistant is Gene.
Yep.
So I did look up. Ebert gave this
Yeah,
one
he hated the film.
a 1.5 stars. So
I wonder if he even mentioned in the review that it has a tribute to him.
he did, and he said he said I will grant them that they did not murder us in the movie because they could have had him easily Godzilla stomped. So
I'm
he's like, thank
assuming
you,
this
Mr.
was.
Emmerich, for not murdering us in the movie. But yeah, I
I'm
still don't like
assuming
your
he'd
movie.
previously slated Stargate and Independence Day, and that was why this happened. Would be my guess.
Correct. Um, another dorky thing I was noticing is that the television station is WIDF, which I assume is ID4.
Maybe because so when we did Armageddon recently, you mentioned that there had been rumors that Michael Bay was going to do Godzilla.
Did I mention
Uh,
that?
or maybe our guest did, but then
Yeah.
in Armageddon, there's a bunch of Godzilla toys, and in Independence Day, there's a bunch of Godzilla toys. So clearly, both directors wanted to do Godzilla.
Probably a
And one
coin
weird
toss.
thing, this film has a bunch of actors who I associate with Michael Bay. Because Kevin Dunn is the Colonel, he's the dad from Transformers,
Oh yeah,
and
I do
Small Soldiers, oddly
recognize him.
enough. And then he has only a brief role, but the soldier who turns up and collects Matthew Broderick at the start of the film is played by Glenn Morshower, who's like the military guy in all the Transformers films.
In this one, okay. Well,
Yeah,
it's I get there's probably like this big budget bubble of character actors, you know.
Yeah,
No
I
fuss,
also
no
just
fuss. They're not going to screw up your shoot, you know.
yeah, and just one more thing on the Transformers. Guess who did a bunch of monster noises?
With Welker.
Yeah,
Okay, I guess he does the most of the animal noises, doesn't he?
yeah. I wonder if he even like does come in and do noises for each film, or if there's just a big CD of Frank Welker animal noises that they all use.
I would like to get the footage of him doing that in booth. That must be fun to watch.
The lead female role in the film, Maria Patillo is the actor. Um, yeah, literally just known for Godzilla, but she was
Yeah,
fine. Yes, I'm surprised. Was it such a flop that it ruined her career?
she did win the Golden Raspberry for it.
Oh, she was fine.
Yeah. I can go over the raspberries for this. What do we have? Worst picture nominated but did not win. Maria Patillo won for worst supporting actress. TriStar Pictures won for worst remake or sequel. Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin for directing and screenplay. Well, Devlin for screenplay. They were only nominated. They did not win the worst director and worst screenplay award. So, and they did not win the worst movie trends of the year. Because come on, Godzilla's not a bad trend.
Oh,
Maybe they didn't do it right, but you know.
she's got a longer section of unsold pilots on her Wikipedia than her section of things she was actually in.
Oh, okay. That's too. I guess that's
Ah,
too bad.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That all that's on here is really Godzilla for a few made-for-TV movies.
Mhm.
So, but I
But
mean,
if we're
yeah,
talking about the cast, the only member of the cast anyone gives a shit about is Godzilla.
right, right. Of course. Well, again, if he's actually in this or not, right? So,
Oh, well,
or
Zilla
she,
at least.
she. I guess. Well, I don't know. They say asexual, so I guess it would
Yeah,
actually be the correct pronoun because they continue
they
saying he the entire time. Well, they would
yeah they
be
keep calling it
all,
there. Yeah.
all the velociraptors. Um, well, I don't know. Why don't how are we going to monster wrap this one? So
Okay, well,
you know,
let's talk about it first, just as its own monster.
okay,
I think it's a pretty cool creature design.
it is, but like you said, the Lost World taste on the baby ones is a little strong.
But the sort of square face is quite unique. Like if you look at this monster, you know what you're looking at.
Yeah, yeah. I guess
And the
it's
sort of the lithe body shape is it makes it the way it moves is a bit more unique, and it can climb up buildings and do a bit more of a semi King Kong thing at times.
I feel like this was maybe too early in CGI land to really make a night one that really sticks in the brain. You know, I mean,
Mm.
there's a little bit of brown green blobishness, not as much as say the lizard in that Amazing Spider-Man movie, but it's got a little bit of that going. You know.
There, it's any time that you're seeing like characters and there's just its leg or something behind them, it's just a vague CGI mess. But whenever you see a full body shot, I think it looks good.
Yeah, yeah. With the main Zilla, I guess it's mostly fine. It's more with the smaller ones where it gets a little rough.
The thing with the smaller ones is you're probably right because I had a bunch of toy ones as a kid. I actually really like them. And speaking of which, special section for YouTube viewers. Here's a sealed in its box baby Godzilla.
All right,
And you know what you've got to do with vintage classic toys like this.
take them out of the box.
Fuck yeah.
No, I would never keep that stuff in the box. Come on. Yeah, so that's our guest for the
Yeah. That's basically
for
the reason we're doing this podcast is I wanted to watch the film before I opened the toy. I didn't want to
okay.
watch the film until we did a podcast.
Mission successful then. And that's okay. That's one of the baby ones. It's a little more red. It wasn't red in the
Well,
movie
yeah.
though. Yeah.
If the toys are all like multicolored, but yeah, you don't really get that from the film. They all look pretty grey.
Just let me see the face there because you're saying they're more boxy. Yeah, I guess I see that, but there's still a full
Especially on the large.
Velociraptor.
Oh, I'm mostly talking about the large Godzilla.
Oh, okay. I was, yeah, when I'm,
Yeah,
yeah, the
these were
Lost
definitely
World.
trying to be baby Godzillas,
I will say that
Velociraptors.
I think those sequences are better than the ones in Lost World.
Yeah, probably.
I like I guess, because the Lost World, we just get that little touch of urban attack at the end where it's
Mm.
kind of cool. Like we're in Madison Square Garden, we're trying to keep them in here. There's a bunch of fish, blah blah. I maybe one of the problems with this movie is that was the best sequence, but they still had to be like, oh, but we still have to have like the full Zilla at the end, right? So,
Mm.
but the
Do you
nest.
think it would? Do you think it would have been better if they actually had killed it with the submarines, and then the conclusion was just stopping the eggs?
Well, that you can't do that in a Godzilla
Yeah,
movie. That's the
right.
problem. They kind of painted themselves into a corner. Like that's how the
Yeah.
Lost World should have ended. You know,
Mm.
I guess that's more what I'm saying. They should trade. Because
Yeah,
Lost World's got the one. Is it a T Rex in the end that's in
it's a
going
T
through the
Rex.
town?
Yeah.
You
Well,
just
I
trade
was talking about how I
finales.
talking about how I get the films mixed up. The scene where Godzilla first arrives in New York and smashes up that pier, I always confuse in my head because the Lost World has the scene where the boat comes in and smashes up the pier because the T Rex has killed everyone on board.
I think we're
It
finding
just
some of the flaws of late '90s big budget blockbuster making.
yeah,
With
for the most part, I think obviously it doesn't look modern, but the effects do hold up pretty well for a 1998 CGI monster.
Yeah, yeah,
One reason for that is because most of the carnage he's causing is practical.
that
They were
certainly helps.
smashing up models and flipping real cars. Um, so it like even though the CG is a bit off, the main thing that was off about the CG is it didn't seem to move at the same frame rate as everything that was being filmed.
And the
So
the
it
cut,
had a weird stop motion feel sometimes.
yeah, and it wasn't like color timed or something. It seemed to
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
exist in a different space than everything else sometimes.
Um, that's something which I think definitely Spielberg did better than Emmerich. Which I'm sure there's quite a long list of things that Spielberg does better than Emmerich.
Well, especially in the first Jurassic Park, it's only like 40% of that stuff's actually CGI, right? Or
But
it does.
even the shots which are CGI, the ones that work, it's because Spielberg has thought about the lighting when he's filming the live stuff so that the monster could fit in. Whereas maybe Emmerich does a bit of the film a lot, mistake a lot of modern films make of just thinking, well, we're going to stick it in with CG, but not filming it with that in mind.
I mean, because Independence Day, does that even have digital in it?
It's mostly model work, and then maybe there's like one or two shots. But yeah,
Because this is, I guess, one of the first times we went to a theater and we're like, gee, maybe everything being digital is not such a great thing.
mm.
Because
That might be why this film got as razzed as it did, because this is one of the first examples of maybe CG doesn't do it better.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I
exactly.
think even this has quite a lot of puppet shots.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I guess that, like you said, the film speed and the color timing thing that just seems a little weird sometime.
Mm.
I guess the other flaws. I'm looking at statements from the filmmakers with Dean Devlin saying they constructed the movie wrong because it's like they don't start explaining the characters until the middle of the movie, but you've already made your judgments on them or something. Which I don't know. I don't even know if I agree with him about that, but
Yeah, I don't think that's my issue with the film.
you can come up with another issue if you want. So I'm just going by the thing I read right before you roll tape.
I guess it is like the characters we're supposed to care about don't actually share any screen time until like the final third, and
That's kind of,
we just have them telling other characters that they know each other.
yeah, like
Maybe that's what he's getting at. Yeah,
exactly. Broderick and his sweetie. No, they just, I mean, they're instantly thrown into running from little Zillas, right?
yeah,
And then they
yeah.
just, oh, we still love each other, but yeah, after oh, that,
They get
yeah,
one scene where she
explosion,
betrays him. Then
right?
they get a scene where they escape from dinosaurs, and then that's the end of their character arc.
Yeah, yeah.
So
The
yeah, I
other
guess I see
one,
it like that.
the other one, Devlin said, and here I'll read the actual quote this time. The first is we did not commit to anthropomorphizing Godzilla, meaning we did not decide if he was a heroic character or a villainous
That
character. We
actually
made
was
the
going to be my big complaint
intellectual,
about the film.
decision to have him be neither and just simply an animal trying to survive.
Because the film really feels like it can't decide if Godzilla is a sympathetic character or not. Like sometimes the humans are shooting missiles at him and we get a heroic swell of music. And then 2 seconds later, he's dead and we get really sad music.
Yeah, that was definitely some weird whiplash because it's like,
because the original, I mean, I guess it's time to start getting into this. The original 1954 Godzilla, which this is ostensibly a remake of, does a really good job of what they just said they were trying to do, where Godzilla doesn't feel like a character, it's just a force of nature. And so it's not villainous or heroic, it just is.
But that needs to be put against, like, here we have your rip-roaring Hollywood heroes, and in the original Godzilla, we have a rather dour, we're all screwed Japanese society.
But yeah, because that's the biggest fundamental problem with this film. The original Godzilla is, indirectly, maybe, a big critique of an American military action, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this film, A, like, it has heroic military American soldiers all the way through it, and B, tries to shift the blame to some French nuclear tests. What a pathetic, cowardly film.
Yeah, it's just nuclear bombs were bad. We're really making a statement there.
Yeah, right? Whereas, like, yeah, the original Godzilla was made from a very emotional place of dealing with this, like, generational trauma. Whereas the 98 Godzilla is, you know, it's made 3 years too early, basically, because America didn't have any generational trauma to funnel into a film yet.
Maybe it's
and
like
then
there's quantum ripples in time, you know, because what was it? When were I don't
it
remember
was
when
no,
and
it
why
was
Americans
Starship Troopers was the one where we were like, oh shit, this feels like a 9/11 movie, and it came out like a month before.
Yeah. Well, what was the whole French thing in the States? Is because they wouldn't go along with us into Iraq or something? I don't remember. But yeah,
Probably some bullshit like that.
yeah, there was a year.
Oh right, yeah, because then Bush is calling them cheese-eating surrender monkeys and stuff.
Yeah, that's when we had the freedom fries, and
Yeah.
like this is like 4 years before that. So
Oh, those monsters who wouldn't go to Iraq, that just and holy war.
yeah,
I
that's
got
why
detention at school for skipping school to protest the Iraq War.
yeah, that's why I'm saying here, like, trying to why were Americans? But it certainly wasn't that. But yeah, I guess it was that, wasn't it? Ah,
But then, I think the only reason this is taking pot shots at the French is just Roland Emmerich having a laugh because he's Belgian.
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I think that might just be like him having some fun, because then he has the French characters making fun of American coffee and donuts all the way through.
Right. So he's got no skin in the game, right? He's from Belgium. So I don't know. I guess Godzilla needs to be made by people that
Well, you can make fun Godzilla films too, but the fun Godzilla films have to be Godzilla fighting something.
yeah.
When you're making a film where it's just Godzilla destroys the city, then you've got original Godzilla, you've got Shin Godzilla. Those are both, I would say, masterpieces. You've got this one where it's like, well, it's not about anything. So it's just a lizard smashing buildings. And then I don't know, like, obviously, I'm not rooting for any of these humans. I'm rooting for Godzilla. So the film is just awkward.
Both Shin and the 50s original also have a very not boring but stately pace. You know, where this one it tries to be pretty manic and
exactly, because they're not action films, right?
Right.
They're films about something, about a disaster and what it does to people and stuff, or what it does to a state, in Shin's case, really, more than people. Whereas this film is like, whoa, wouldn't it be fun to see Godzilla smash some stuff?
Which, sure, but yeah, it doesn't make for the best movie.
Give us more fun stuff to smash then. Because the 2014 Godzilla is far from perfect. And I think the MonsterVerse Godzillas also are very problematic in the way they twist the depiction of nuclear weaponry. Because in those films, like, nukes are what save the day by powering up Godzilla. But those films, for the most part, don't try and pretend that they are remaking the 1954 classic. They're just like, hey, here's Godzilla, here's a bad monster, let's see him fight. Literally, the line everyone remembers from Godzilla is Ken Watanabe, let them fight. So, at least those films knew what they were doing a bit more.
Yeah, and they went straight to other monsters in the 2014, right? I mean,
Mm,
there's those Muto things that nobody likes, but it's not just Godzilla in a vacuum.
all
Which,
right.
while Zilla spawns here, that doesn't really count. And Zilla doesn't fight its
That's just
babies.
more of Godzilla, right? Yeah.
Yeah, would it be cool if we had more Godzilla?
Mm,
But or as the Toho actors were, they took the god out of the Godzilla, right?
yeah. I don't think they ever call it Zilla in any of the films. That's just something the one of the directors said. Like, yeah, there's no god in that thing. It's just Zilla. But then one of the first Japanese films after this, they're talking about Godzilla in like some military meeting. It's like, oh, didn't it attack New York in '98? And then the general's like, oh no, a lot of people thought that was Godzilla, but it wasn't. And then a
Did they
couple of years later than that, in Final Wars, the real Godzilla actually kills this thing.
they don't name it though in Final
No,
Wars.
that's what I mean
No,
saying. They
okay.
don't actually name it in any of the films.
Okay, okay.
That's sort
See,
of
I had
unofficial name.
I remembered it being named in Final Wars, but that's me. Well, I've also watched it once, so
Also, on this box that I just opened, because it's a Japanese release, it has some of the little Toho logos on it. Apparently, this is an official figure of Baby Godzilla, but it's got a picture of the Japanese character, Baby Godzilla, and
oh yeah,
Godzilla.
oh
They're like,
yeah, yeah.
not quite, guys.
Okay,
Close enough.
because I did find a logo like that, which was for Zilla. So there is. I didn't.
Ah,
Is that toy dates from '98?
yeah, I think this is from '98. So
Okay, okay, yeah, because the later one, it was like mid 2000s when they started
yeah, yeah, yeah.
using that logo a little bit for the TriStar Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the big.
It's not actually like a valuable retro toy. It cost me 550 yen.
I was sitting here like, gee, I wonder because I mean, you and I know when we see that Phantom Menace stuff, sometimes it's like ridiculously expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's not actually. So I guess it
Yeah,
depends where you're looking. So
I don't think any of the Zilla shit is going to be expensive, but it'll always tickle my pickle.
radio. So I guess we're having trouble that this movie doesn't have a whole lot to say.
But that's the problem. Yeah, the film doesn't have anything to say. So what do you say about it?
Well, I guess I
Like,
could run.
there are attempts to make an American Godzilla for a while, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to look up when the last Japanese one was before this. I think there was a bit of a gap because Toho does this thing where like every now and then they'll be like, "Oh no, we're retiring Godzilla for now," and then sort of 10 years later they'll change their mind. But
That makes sense. I mean, there's some American
it's only
franchises that do
95.
that.
Yeah, 1995 there was Godzilla versus Destroyer, which is very much an ending. Like Destroyer is a monster made from the oxygen destroyer in the original Godzilla film, and Godzilla sacrifices itself to kill it and stuff. And that was meant to be like, okay, we're going to stop making Godzilla films, let the Americans have a go. And this came out in 1998, and then in 1999, Godzilla 2000 came out. It was like, nope, we got to stop making our own ones again.
Yeah, I mean, I think this beyond the movie itself is just kind of seen as the worst use of an IP ever, you know,
Mm.
which I guess Sony tried again with Spider-Man when kept stumbling over its own feet. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, Sony is just even more than like Disney or Warner Bros. The example of films made by a company, not by artists. And like, every now and then something accidentally comes out that's good, but for
right,
the most part, it's like in spite of Sony, not because of them.
but I guess some of
That's how
the
you
hate.
get Morbius.
Yeah, yeah. The rules about that are so weird. I didn't know every one of these like kind of like periphery Spider-Man, but not really films, still
Mm.
has to have like a periphery character from one of the Marvel ones. That's why Michael Keaton just randomly shows up at the end of
They
that one,
don't
apparently.
have they don't have to. Sony wants them to try and pretend it's tied into the Marvel films. They can get some dollar.
Yeah, yeah. It's so it's sweaty,
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's very sweaty.
So that would be, I guess, but this one I think still takes the crown for worst IP handling simply
Mm.
because they just smashed their head into a brick wall with this one
Well,
basically.
also the difference with like the Sony's bad Spider-Man films is we'd already had two fantastic Spider-Man films, and then very quickly after we had three more great Spider-Man films. Whereas like with this, we'd never had an American Godzilla before. We didn't get another attempt for 16 more years. This was our chance to see, like, oh, here's a Godzilla movie made with the sort of budget Hollywood can give it. And yeah, they absolutely blew it.
See, as much as like the criticisms you said about the new MonsterVerse ones are perfectly valid, but when I watched um uh Godzilla versus King Kong, the key flipped where I like quit caring about the MCU pretty much completely, and there's in the MonsterVerse probably helps because you only get a film every 1 or 2 years, where Marvel's just
Yeah.
crapping them out now. I've just like you said, do you want to see Wakanda Forever? I was like, oh, I feel like I want to, but I can't get myself stoked.
Well, I have intellectually, I definitely have problems with the MonsterVerse movies, but I still fucking love them.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to whatever the next MonsterVerse is more than the next Marvel. So
Well, we are so when listeners hear this is our first podcast of 2023. Happy New Year. This year, 2023, we are getting a new Japanese Godzilla film. It's gonna be, apparently it's set in like the 50s or like post-war Japan. So it might be like a genuine remake of the original in the way that Peter Jackson's King Kong was.
okay,
Or at
I
least
hope
or at least go back to being like very much about like Hiroshima and stuff.
right,
So
right.
I am very interested to see how that turns out.
I hope they keep it to 90 minutes then.
And then next year, the 2024 is the 70th anniversary of Godzilla, and we're getting the next MonsterVerse one, which is called Godzilla and Kong.
That's not a creative title.
No, I guess they're friends now.
Yeah, okay. It's going to be like My Dinner with Andre or something, except with giant monsters.
I would watch a film that is just Godzilla and Kong hanging out for 90 minutes, just like a wildlife documentary.
Give a little playful push every once in a while.
Yep, yep, yep.
No real roughhousing.
Godzilla shooting little laser beams to kill some fleas on King Kong's fur.
Yeah. So Zilla doesn't have fire breath. He just lights. It only lit some cars
Yeah, it
on
like
fire.
Yeah, it's that whole 90s and 2000s did a lot of this, right? Where it's adapting a thing, but it doesn't have the balls to admit it likes the thing. So you get like a sort of nod to that thing from the comics or whatever, but they never show it.
Yeah,
And this is 100% that. It's like, oh yeah, you nerds like it when he breathes fire, do you? Isn't that silly? He's not going to breathe fire in our clever, serious Hollywood film, but he'll smash up some cars and they'll light on fire and it'll look like he breathes fire because that's realistic.
Yeah, I think the crown of that, and it's not a movie I dislike. Just to go with your jumper, there is the first X-Men is definitely, I think, the chief offender.
Oh, there. What would you prefer, yellow spandex?
Like, yes, actually,
Yeah, I would.
please.
We still haven't really had a proper Wolverine costume. They teased it at the end of the Wolverine.
Yeah. Because Cyclops, I think they got pretty much everyone else reasonably right
Well,
by this
yeah,
point.
by the time when they were doing the prequel X-Men's, they put them in more colorful costumes, but we never saw Wolverine in a costume in those films.
Yeah, a good point.
He's coming back for Deadpool 3 though, so I'll probably wear a costume in that.
Oh yeah, you can't hang out with Deadpool and not wear some yellow spandex.
Yeah.
That's just how it rolls.
Well, hopefully Hugh Jackman doesn't have roles. I know he's getting older, but he seems to be in shape.
So, is any other big ones you want to throw out on this?
Godzilla's quite a big one.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that I did actually. That is one thing I've heard a lot of complaining. Also, this is from the Ebert review. I think it's where it started that Godzilla's size is not consistent. It didn't bug me the first time I watched it, and it didn't bug me yesterday. I did. I mean, it didn't really process that much, I guess.
That's kind of true of most monster films. The original King Kong, he's like a completely different size on the island to what he is on New York. Most of the Godzilla films have that a little bit. Like the Transformers are terrible for it, especially the cartoons. It's like when you're watching it, like you say, you don't notice it. You have to be looking for that to have a problem with it.
Because I think his thing is like, oh, how's Godzilla fit in a subway tunnel? I'm like, it doesn't really.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been to New York. I don't know how big the subway tunnels are. Sure, Godzilla's down there. Why not?
Well, he's kind of sticking its head in, right? It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's fine. That makes sense.
I
Um,
do think what this film does well, which the Japanese films hadn't done much up until then and started doing afterwards, is properly having the human actors interact with the monster. So usually in the Japanese films, you'll get a scene of like Godzilla smashing up a model city. You'll get a scene of some people running away. Maybe one shot where the people are running in the foreground and Godzilla's in the background. But you don't really have like in this film where a guy is in a truck and the teeth are coming through the truck. Or like
yeah.
people, you see them on the train as Godzilla's lifting, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I
Like,
guess the first thing to really try that was the 70s King Kong, right? Because he
mm-hmm.
picks up, like before that, you never have monster interaction like that.
And again, it's like effects needed to evolve and you needed to be able to throw mad money at it that Hollywood can afford to actually lift trucks up and shake them. So
It's especially, yeah. You just went to Universal Studios Japan. Do they don't have a confrontation, do they?
no, they don't have a confrontation. They had
Oh, that's too bad.
they had the Jurassic Park ride where you go around the little water rapids and you see some pretty tired old looking dinosaur puppets.
Okay. Yeah,
But
because
the T-Rex scare at the end was decent.
I was just saying because that the confrontation has him picking up your tram and shaking it
Mm.
around like
Yeah. Oh,
twice or something.
I've seen images of it and it looks incredible. Like, I'd love to ride that.
Yeah, it was. It unfortunately was because I think it's the Mummy or something now. But
Like,
yeah,
what, the Tom Cruise money?
it might be. They might have gone for that. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
They were all in on the Dark Universe. There is there's some Shin Godzilla rides at some theme park down in like Shikoku. There's like a zip line right into Shin Godzilla's mouth.
It sounds like fun.
I think there's some more theme parky stuff coming.
Okay.
I'm into
Because yeah,
that.
yeah. Because like you said, the monster interaction, especially with the
Mm.
ride, unless it's on the screen, you don't want your monster on the screen. That's why I'm sitting here, talking about the confrontation so much. I guess because
Yeah,
Godzilla hasn't had a ride like that or anything yet. So
I don't think so. I would love it, but I don't think he has.
like
But that's what I'm saying. You have to give this film props. It is a well-made monster movie because Roland Emmerich is good at making disaster movie scenes, right?
yeah, I will.
I think by the time you get to 2012, he relies too much on CG, and you go back to not having that good interaction between the actors and the events.
Mm,
But I
although I
can't picture a scene in that film where it feels like your actual on-screen actor is in danger.
right, I don't think we would have gotten Final Wars without this movie though.
No,
This
we
this
definitely wouldn't.
this lit the fire for having manic insane action in your Godzilla movie because
The Heisei ones too have a bit of that, but I think they are also quite slow paced.
yeah.
Maybe we would like because Final Wars is ridiculously paced. It is just Godzilla has 20 different fights, and instead of having talking in between, you have kung fu in between. So
Yeah.
like, I love that film.
Oh, I think that's like you said, Shin Godzilla and the original are masterpieces, but Final Wars kind of my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
That's like said, that's why it's informed with Emmerich films. They're not quote unquote good, but sometimes
Mm.
they're amazing. I'd say
But
the
see,
same thing about Final Wars.
I think Independence Day at times does creep into good, and I know a lot of people don't want to give it that credit, but I think it does. This doesn't. This is pretty bad. But yeah, it is good at monster stuff. I guess the question you always have to ask with this film, if it hadn't been released under the name Godzilla, do you think people would think differently about it?
Then it'd probably just be Rain of Fire.
Yeah, but Rain of Fire didn't actually. The problem with Rain of Fire is that the posters showed a bunch of Dragon Carnage. They didn't actually have the budget for Dragon Carnage. So it's mostly sort of a slow post apocalyptic thing.
Yeah, okay. But I just feel like
Because that
that's
is
how
what
this.
happened here, right? Jurassic Park came out, it was a success. And they're like, well, what can we put out to match it? Well, we've got the Godzilla license. Nice, slap that on it and make our own dinosaur movie.
Yeah, just
Because he's more like a T-Rex on Jurassic Park than he is like any version of Godzilla.
yeah, really. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing with like the Total Recall remake or the RoboCop remake. Just don't call it that, and you might have a reasonable movie.
Yeah. Because yeah, if this had just been like, even if it had been called like a remake of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, if they had to chuck a name on it,
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a bad idea.
it's closer to that anyway. With New York and a big lizard.
Oh, the other thing that the Ebert review did point out is one of the reasons that he hated this one so much was because he's like, I watched Gamera last year.
Oh yeah, the '90s cameras were coming out,
But
right?
you're saying like we were saying Toho wasn't doing Godzilla, but this was like prime Gamera time,
Yeah,
and that if you're comparing this against those Gamera films, yeah, this is a absolute turd.
we were in the Gam era.
Yes, I guess that works. Okay.
We better get on them this year as well.
Yeah, yeah. I have the Blu-rays sitting with like 30 inches away.
Like, there's not many real classic sci-fi's we haven't touched on now.
Mm.
So from now on, every time you ask me for a suggestion, I'm just going to say monster movies.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah. I will say though, this one held up a little better. You know, it's kind of like the cheese ball of time. You know, when you
Mm.
watch it when it's new and you're just like, man, this is cheesy, and you give it 25 years, and it's like, well, yes, cheesy, but it's like, you know, it's nostalgic cheese now.
Oh
So
yeah.
that does make this movie better because watching it in '98, I didn't hate it. Like I said, I came out just with a meh, you know.
Mm.
Whereas now is definitely like the you got half the Simpsons. The music is as '90s as possible. The characters are drawn broadly in that derpy, you know, sitcom way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of fun to watch that now. Uh, like I think we do. I mean, our blockbusters are much better. I think they are more consistent than this now for sure. But we don't
But the problem now is they're too consistent.
exactly in
It's
the
so
late
from
'90s. While it was totally goofy in terms of blockbusters, those mid-level pictures were like, you know, we were having like a second Hollywood renaissance, you know.
yeah.
Lots of great movies coming out in the late '90s on mid to low budgets, and those just all go straight to streaming now. At least we're
Mm-hmm.
getting them again. I feel like 10 years ago we just did not get them at all. Now they're just going
Maybe.
straight to streaming, so I guess that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So I'll get it gets a few extra nostalgia trip points on how it holds up, but I don't. The thing is, if I want to watch Godzilla, like I won't be coming back to this movie. You know,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we just came back to it for your toy, and yeah, because we
Basically.
can do
I feel
this
like it's one we
podcast.
have to cover when we're doing the Godzillas, right? I think we
Oh,
have. Like, I love all the like Showa era Godzilla movies. I don't think we could get a full podcast out of each one.
yeah, yeah. This one at least, yeah. There's so much weird cultural dissonance on this one. There's some fodder for conversation. So
Hmm.
it's like an anthropology study or something. Like the weirdness of late '90s American culture and how it doesn't fit Godzilla at all.
Yep. Well, yeah, like '90s was end of history with the Kings of the World, like the peak of that attitude in America, right?
Oh yeah.
So of course it doesn't match for Godzilla, a film made by a country that had just suffered a humiliating, devastating defeat.
Right, right. This is all just raw. I mean, that was what, you know, we were going in the late '90s, '96, '97. It was like, hey, I wonder what new thing we're going to see explode in the trailers, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's this whole thing. ID4, okay, there goes the White House. Oh, now it's got to be a city, and just what are they going to blow up next? You know?
Little did we know they would blow up the World Trade Center.
Oh yeah. Also the myriad shots of that in here certainly are dated
Well,
because
the '70s King Kong is the craziest one for that because that's where King Kong climbs in that film.
exactly, yeah. Although that has the benefit of being 25 years before
Yeah,
they
yeah,
went
yeah.
down,
I
as
know, I know, I
opposed
know.
to 3 years. So
Yes.
and what is he? Oh, this Godzilla attack is the worst disaster on New York since the World Trade Center bombing.
Yeah.
So it's like, that feels weird now.
One interesting, they he does a bit of carnage and then they evacuate the city. So
Right?
the most of the film they're fighting in an empty New York.
Yeah.
Whereas definitely I think if they did one after 9/11, that's something maybe they would lean into it being more higher casualty count, and they would lean
Yeah.
into more of a tragedy of it.
And I
Whereas
guess this,
this is very much trying to be like, no, 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 don't worry, no one's getting hurt. You can enjoy the carnage.
well, even when the people are in the city, I mean, it's only inferred that anyone dies. You don't see anyone eat it.
Hmm.
You just see them running.
Yeah.
Like like Godzilla steps on something. Oh, it's okay. There's a car there. So yeah,
Yeah.
Zilla, whatever.
In the context of watching this film, they call it Godzilla in the film, right? The character's name is Godzilla.
Yeah, yeah. I just
They
feel
even
the
have
need to.
well, they do the stupid joke of the Japanese guy calls it Godzilla. I was like, you idiot! It's not Godzilla, it's Godzilla.
Yeah,
And then when you get to the MonsterVerse ones, they're just like, yeah, they got the Japanese cast say Godzilla, the American cast say Godzilla, and no one comments on it throughout the films.
that's fine.
But I think that's fine. Yeah, that works for me.
Uh, got you got a final word on this film? I don't know if it's a word. It's more of a gutterance. You can't do a Godzilla roar in your apartment though. That'd piss off your neighbors.
I just basically did. You want me to do it louder?
Okay, I guess tell them where we're at.
We're on Twitter at MLSFS Pod. I almost said the Monster Mash one because we're talking about Monster. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just search Matt and Luke Sci-Fi Sanctuary. Make sure you give us a rating and a review and a like and a subscribe. Tell your friends about it. And if you want to help support the podcast, keep it online, you can go to patreon.com/podcastio podcastius, where you'll also find links to the other podcasts that me and Matt create, like the Time Enough podcast, a podcast about Twilight Zone. There's Luke Loves Pokemon on Monster Mash. If you are into monsters, they talk about Pokemon and Monster Hunter respectively. And if you want to hear four British dudes swearing at each other, you can go and find the Game Show.
Okay, you've officially adopted that one for yourself. That's cool.
Yep.
Well, let's evacuate the city, I suppose.
Yeah. How do you pronounce the lead character's name in this film?
Oh, I was impressed when you just popped out of your head.
Nick Topoulos.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's that difficult to pronounce, but all the American characters like Nick Tatapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapapap
just said it. I'm gonna look at it and say it for you. Tadopoulos? Did I say it right?
Nope.
I'm an American. That's why.
God, you're an idiot.
I think that was kind of like a side joke because what was it? Clinton's advisor was George Stephanopoulos or something.
Uh,
So I think that was like a weird political joke, kind of.
did you
Because
see the Clinton thing at the Game Awards?
what's that?
At the During the Game of the Year award, like the biggest award at the end of the night, some random kid got on stage who's not part of the team and just got the microphone and said, "I want to dedicate this award to my Reformed Orthodox rabbi, Bill Clinton."
Okay,
Yeah,
he's got some cray cray going on. I guess that's cool.
yeah. And the actual director of the game was stood behind him, and there's photos where it looks like he's got the award in his hand. And he's looking at this kid, and it looks like he's thinking of just braining him with this award. He looks furious.
That would have been cool. Okay, I'm gonna hit the record.